Welcome back, deep divers. Today we're diving into some really eerie waters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know those like picture-perfect bridges you see on postcards, the ones that like just seem so tranquil and peaceful.
Right.
Well, some of them hide a pretty dark secret.
Oh.
They have a reputation for being dog suicide bridges.
It's true. It's a phenomenon that is both unsettling and strangely captivating.
Right.
Yeah, these seemingly peaceful locations all of a sudden become like shrouded in mystery and fear when you start hearing the stories.
Exactly. And there's one bridge in particular that has become like almost infamous in this regard.
Oh, yeah.
The Overtown Bridge in Scotland.
Oh, wow.
Reports of dogs leaping to their deaths there have fueled all sorts of speculation.
Right.
But it's not just Overtown. This isn't just some isolated Scottish mystery.
No, you're right. These stories pop up all over the globe, which just adds to that unsettling feeling that something unexplained is at play.
So before we get like lost in the fog of speculation,
Yeah.
what are the more conventional explanations that people put forward?
Well, some folks point to the bridge's design, like maybe the height disorients the dogs, or the way the surroundings are laid out kind of messes with their depth perception.
Okay.
Others suggest that it could be strong scents,
Oh, interesting.
perhaps from critters hiding under the bridge that are luring the dogs towards the edge.
See, those explanations, while logical, they don't quite satisfy the curiosity for me.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
I mean, if it were just a design quirk or a particularly enticing smell, wouldn't these incidents happen more randomly?
Right.
But there's a consistency to them, and the way people describe the dogs behaving, it almost seems deliberate,
It does, and that's exactly where the conspiracy theories kind of take root.
Yeah.
They offer explanations that go beyond the rational and delve into like our deepest fears and fascinations.
And that's what we're diving into today, the captivating and sometimes chilling world of conspiracy theories surrounding these bridges.
Ooh.
We're talking portals to other dimensions, whispers of ancient rituals, and even murmurs of occult activities.
It's fascinating how these theories tap into such primal human fears and desires.
Right.
It's like they take a seemingly senseless tragedy and try to imbue it with meaning.
Okay, so let's unpack these theories one by one.
Right.
First up, the portal theory.
Okay.
This one claims that these bridges aren't just bridges, they're gateways to another realm, maybe even a canine afterlife.
Whoa.
So the dogs aren't jumping to their deaths, they're answering some kind of mystical call,
Interesting.
like they're on a spiritual journey.
The idea of a bridge as a threshold between worlds is a powerful one.
Right,
It's present in so many cultures and mythologies.
right.
This theory really plays on our fascination with the unknown and that desire to believe there's something more beyond this physical world.
It's almost comforting in a strange way to imagine these dogs stepping into another reality,
Yeah.
but a portal to where some sort of doggy heaven.
Right.
It's definitely a leap. What about the next theory? What other explanations have people come up with?
So, the ritualistic theory kind of delves into the world of ancient mysteries.
Okay.
It suggests that these bridges were once sites of ancient ceremonies, perhaps even sacrifices,
Oh, wow.
and that some residual energy from those rituals kind of lingers, compelling the dogs to reenact them.
So we're talking about echoes of the past, ancient energy that draws dogs to their doom.
Exactly.
It's like something straight out of an Indiana Jones movie.
It is. It definitely plays on our fascination with history, lost civilizations, and forgotten practices. That fear of the unknown, of forces beyond our control, definitely adds to the allure of this theory.
And then we have the occult theory,
Oh boy.
which takes things to a whole other level of spooky.
Yeah.
This theory claims that these bridges are used for modern-day dark rituals, with animals sadly being the victims. Talking secret societies, hidden agendas, all that unsettling stuff.
Right. This theory often intertwines with the ritualistic theory, with the bridge acting as a conduit between worlds, a focal point for occult practices.
Right, because what better place to perform these rituals than a spot already shrouded in mystery?
Exactly.
It just fuels the fire and makes the whole thing seem even more sinister.
For sure.
So we've got these three main theories, each more captivating and arguably more unsettling than the last.
Right.
But how much stock should we really put in them?
That's where things get interesting, because these theories, while intriguing, often rely on anecdotal evidence and lack rigorous scientific backing.
Yep.
It's important to remember that.
Right, it's easy to get swept up in these spooky narratives. But as with any good mystery, we need to balance that fascination with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like with any captivating story, we need to be asking ourselves, what's the evidence?
Right.
We're often dealing with stories that have been passed down and embellished over time.
Right.
Sometimes even fueled by media sensationalism.
It's true. Those spooky tales can really take on a life of their own.
They do.
Especially when you start adding like dramatic music and shadowy visuals.
Right.
But we need to remember to separate fact from fiction.
Yes.
And sometimes the simplest explanation, though maybe less exciting, is the one that makes the most sense.
Exactly. And remember, animals, just like humans, can have complex and sometimes unpredictable behaviors.
Totally.
Dogs, in particular, are driven by their instincts and are very sensitive to their environment.
So instead of picturing portals and ancient rituals, could we be dealing with something as simple as an unusual scent that triggers a dog's chase instinct,
Yeah.
leading to a tragic accident?
Precisely. Maybe there's a sound that spooks them, or even a magnetic anomaly that disorients them.
Oh, interesting.
We also can't rule out anxiety, especially in certain breeds, or just a strong urge to explore.
And hasn't there been very little serious scientific research into this phenomenon?
Yeah, that's a key point.
It's not like we have mountains of data to sift through.
We need more research, more data to really understand what's happening at these bridges. Like, for example, has anyone studied the bridge's design in detail? Looked at the acoustics? Or the magnetic fields in the area?
You're talking about taking specific measurements, looking for anything out of the ordinary that could affect the dog's behavior.
Right, and we need to investigate the surrounding environment as well. Are there unusual scents from plants or local wildlife?
Oh.
What about the wildlife itself? Could something be lurking under the bridge that attracts or startles the dogs?
So we need to scrutinize the bridge and its surroundings. But what about the dogs themselves? Shouldn't we factor in things like breed medical history, even personality?
Absolutely. Are certain breeds more prone to this type of behavior? Could there be underlying medical conditions playing a role? Are there any behavioral patterns we can see in the dogs leading up to the incident? These are all questions we need to explore.
Eyewitness accounts seem to play a big part in this whole mystery. But how reliable are they really?
Right.
People tend to see what they expect to see, especially when they've already heard the spooky stories.
Yeah, that's another crucial point. Eyewitness testimony can be notoriously unreliable, especially in emotionally charged situations.
Right.
We have to consider the possibility of psychological biases, like what we call confirmation bias.
Right.
That's where we favor information that confirms our existing beliefs. So someone might see a dog jump from a bridge that's already known as a dog suicide bridge and automatically assume it was intentional,
Right.
but there might have been other factors involved.
So it's like the stories themselves are shaping people's perceptions,
Exactly.
making them more likely to interpret events in a certain way.
Exactly, and that's why we need to be cautious about drawing conclusions based solely on those accounts. We need more objective evidence, more scientific rigor to truly understand this phenomenon.
It seems like we're a long way from solving this mystery.
Yeah,
But the fact that we're even having this conversation, that we're questioning the easy answers and digging deeper, that's a good thing, right?
curiosity is what drives knowledge, and skepticism is what keeps us on track.
I like that.
It's about asking the tough questions, demanding evidence, and considering different viewpoints.
So where does this leave us with the mystery of dog suicide bridges? What are the key takeaways our listeners should keep in mind?
I think the most important takeaway is the power of critical thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just accept things at face value, especially when it comes to these extraordinary claims. Look for evidence, consider different perspectives, and don't be afraid to question what you hear.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in a good story. But we have to remember that not everything we read or hear is true, especially online, where sensationalism and misinformation can spread like wildfire.
Right. Another key takeaway is to acknowledge the limits of our current knowledge. We don't have all the answers when it comes to this phenomenon.
Right.
And that's okay. It's a reminder that there are still mysteries out there and so much more to learn.
It's like an invitation to keep exploring, to keep asking questions, and to maybe even contribute to the search for answers.
Right.
Who knows, maybe one of our listeners will be the one to crack this case. But for now, I think it's time to bring you into the conversation.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on all of this? Do any of these theories resonate with you? What questions are still swirling around in your mind?
We've explored these spooky stories, the official explanations, and the more skeptical viewpoints, but ultimately it's up to you to decide what you believe. And maybe, just maybe, after listening to this deep dive, you'll find yourself pondering the most intriguing question of all. If these bridges aren't portals to other dimensions, if they're not haunted by ancient rituals or shadowed by secret societies, What is it about these specific locations that seems to draw some dogs towards their tragic fate?
It really is a head-scratcher, isn't it? The mystery remains.
It does.
But that's what makes exploring these topics so fascinating. Until next time, deep divers, keep those minds curious.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on our social media channels, so feel free to share your theories, questions, and insights.
Yeah, it's like we've stumbled upon one of those classic unsolved mysteries. You know, the kind that keeps you thinking long after you've heard the stories. Yeah, and that's the beauty of it. It reminds us that we don't have all the answers, that the world still holds secrets waiting to be uncovered.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into this eerie topic, what final thoughts would you leave our listeners with? What should they keep in mind as they ponder these dog suicide bridges?
I'd say the biggest takeaway is to remain curious, but also to cultivate a healthy sense of skepticism. You know,
Right.
don't just dismiss the strange or the unusual, but don't jump to conclusions either.
Okay.
Let the mystery fuel your curiosity, but let critical thinking be your guide.
I like that, and I think it's a great reminder that sometimes the simplest explanation is the most likely one. We don't always need to resort to portals and ancient curses to make sense of the world around us.
Exactly. But even if we kind of strip away the paranormal, these cases still highlight how little we truly understand about animal behavior.
Right.
There's so much more to learn, so many questions still unanswered.
And who knows, maybe one of our listeners will be the one to shed new light on this mystery. Maybe they'll be the ones to uncover the real reason behind these tragic events.
That would be amazing.
Well, until then, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
Okay.
Now, to all our listeners out there, we want to hear from you. Have you ever heard of dog suicide bridges? What are your theories? Head over to our social media pages and share your thoughts, your questions, your insights. Let's keep this conversation going. Until next time, deep divers, stay curious.